The Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe is fine. Welcome to this incredibly positive Doctor Who Christmas special review, where now I have to talk about the Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe for approximately 6 minutes. Help. Look, this episode can kind of be viewed in two ways. Because I think calling it mediocre would just kind of be a lie. You can either enjoy it as a Christmassy episode and very turn your brain off, or you can admit it's pretty poor from start to finish. Look, I don't know what Moffat was thinking. Maybe he thought that his Christmas Carol story worked well, so he thought he'd do a play on the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Why? Look, I think that's an important place to start. It doesn't make for an interesting story. I think I'm going to try my best in a roundabout way to explain why this story doesn't work, or at least why most of it doesn't work. Sometimes within Doctor Who, you have the inciting incident of an episode pretty much straight away, or at least for like the majority of the episode, so you know why we're supposed to care. I'd say quite a good example of that is Voyage of the Damned, where 20 minutes in, you know exactly what the stakes are, you know exactly what's going to happen, and you are invested. Then you have other styles of story where, you know, things slowly start to build along, you discover more, you piece things together, but you have a wonderfully likeable cast of characters to follow, so you're happy to go along whilst being intrigued with this mystery. You also care about the side characters. And if we're talking Doctor Who Christmas, The Runaway Bride is a fantastic example of that, where you really enjoy seeing David Tennant and Catherine Tate doing their thing, slowly building on a mystery. Now, there lies my biggest problem with The Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe. It has neither. Because it doesn't really give us much story details until much later on, so therefore what that has to do is rely on its cast of side characters to make it interesting. And while I'll take nothing away from Matt Smith's performance, he is fantastic as always, this is a very meh side cast, or well, cast of characters. The actors are completely fine in their roles, but the problem is when you centre a story around two younger characters, it's a recipe for mediocrity. Look, I love Claire Skinner, and she's fantastic and outnumbered, but, you know, she really gets nothing to do here. And especially as all of our major action usually happens with the Doctor, we're kind of just left for most of this episode in this snowy Christmas bauble planet with two not particularly likeable children characters, and I've got to be honest, a quite generic and not very interesting story that we're trying to develop. Let's try and do some positives, because there are some. Matt Smith, fantastic performance. Claire Skinner, as this like mum character, is very good. Alexander Armstrong, our Mr. Smith himself, is always incredibly likeable. Unfortunately though, his role was kinda pointless. I hate myself. Why do I just made an Alexander Armstrong pointless joke in a Doctor Who Christmas special review? Who am I? And I think where this episode works is every time we kind of come back to this like emotional core of the episode. Which is a problem, because I think it could have been more useful if it was made more of a focus element. The idea of this father dying and the mother having to deal with that, and then obviously you've got like the ending and a lot of like Claire Skinner's emotional moments, that all works really well. As a resolution to the story, it's a bit meh, but in terms of like resolving some of the emotional beats, it works very well. And then the idea that this character lit the way for Alexander Armstrong it's sweet and it's fun, and it means Alexander Armstrong survived. And obviously, I'd always be a fan of Alexander Armstrong surviving.
I agree, Alexander Armstrong, Tate.
I love you. That Fraser Oliver cameo was not pointless. I'm not making two pointless jokes in a video. I might do now. We'll see. Another thing that's a really small moment but worked for me really well is this idea of like happy crying. And then we get this kind of little motif throughout the episode. And at the end, we get it when, obviously, after the events of Series 6, 11 reintroduces himself to Amy and Rory. Reintroduces himself, says he's not dead, even though they know he's not dead because River, Series 6, made the show confusing. Wow, not that confusing, to be fair. Come on, keep up. But yeah, that moment at the end where we, like, leave Matt Smith on a happy tear, I thought that was really nice. But yeah, I've got to admit, overall, I don't have tons more to say. Because at the end of the day, while this is definitely, I would say, an episode that I can just turn my brain off and have a bit of fun with, it's not a very good story and doesn't have a particularly likeable set of characters we're following. Like I've said, we follow the kids most of the time, and they're not particularly engaging or likeable. And overall, that might sound really cruel, but those are two massive blocks for success for an episode, and therefore, it's not great, is it? What do you think of Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe if you like me making Alexander Armstrong jokes for however long this video's gone on for. I reckon all 6 minutes? No, 5. Definitely 5. This was short and slightly pointless. And if you want to see my entire Doctor Who Christmas special review playlist, click the video here. It's a playlist, actually. I lied to you. So skip away from this lying face and go to the more trustworthy faces. Moo ha 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 ha. Just moo ha ha in a video, for God's sake.